Afternoon. Welcome to the NEA support session. Um, just have a few people arriving here and there as we begin the session. Just to let you know, the session is being recorded, so there will be a recording and the slides available in the next few days. I'll post those on the Pearson community page, on Pearson Music community page, and I'll add a link to that in the chat later in the session as well. There should be time for questions at the end of the session, so please do wait for those. If you do have a question, you can add that to the chat in the chat box, and I'll try and get through those at the end of the session. The other thing to note is obviously this is online, so if you do have any problems with the sound or a connection problem, the first thing to try is logging out of the session and logging back in, and that usually fixes most problems. So hopefully everything will run smoothly as well. Okay, so just got a few people arriving as we're beginning the session, but today we will be looking at the NEA submission process this year. It is moving to an online submission process for everything. So run through that platform and the way that you'll manage everything this year as well. So the kind of overall agenda is to have a sort of brief introduction, look at how to access the system, the dashboard section when you actually first log in, and then managing the upload and the submission of that. And then there's some more detailed stuff about the documentation that you need for each subject and each qualification in there as well. So submission of NEA from this year is moving to the online learner work transfer portal. You will no longer post material to the moderator or examiner, depending on how that component is assessed, and the LWT system will be used instead. You will have access to the LWT platform via Edexcel Online, and you'll be able to upload all material for submission. So to access the system, you can log into Edexcel Online, and at that point where you would normally select a qualification, don't do that, because in the menu, probably near the bottom for you on the menu that appears on the left, you will have learner work transfer as an option, and if you hover over that, two options appear: standards verification and examination stroke moderation. And for GCSE and A level, you will need to select examination stroke moderation. The other thing to note here is you need to make sure that pop-ups are enabled, because a new window will open when you select that. So if it doesn't appear, the first thing to check is that pop-ups are enabled and enable those. You then may need to go through that process again to have, once you've enabled pop-ups, to have that new window appear, so that you can actually get into the system and see the window. When you do get into the LWT system, you should have a dashboard window appear which looks something like this. And this is where you will navigate around and find the component lists and the requests that are being made for your center. So there are three options here at the top, which is to do, in progress, and completed. So to do are the new requests where no action has actually been taken at that point. So they're brand new sort of requests for your center. There's in progress, which is where a submission has begun. So some files may have been uploaded to that, but it hasn't been submitted. And then there is the completed tab, which is where things that have been submitted will sit. These submissions are in read-only format then and can't be edited, so you can't add any further material once they're in the completed section there. Below those three options, you get two further options, which is examination and moderation. So that depends on how the component is assessed. So for GCSE, you will be looking at the moderation option, and for A-level music and A-level music technology, those components, NEA components, are examined, so they're externally marked by Pearson, so they would sit under the examination option there. There's also a search box on this page, so you can actually narrow down the components that are visible below that are shown here. And so you can start typing the component number. You can select the status of it as well there to find the component. Once you do, you can then go inside and the component by clicking on these three dots, and you'll have the option there to upload the material by going into that component, which then opens up a page that looks like this. I've had to use another subject here just as a screenshot there, because for music and music technology at the moment, the requests aren't in the system yet. That process is triggered in the next month. So from the beginning of April, and certainly by mid-April, the request for your center will appear in the system. It's triggered by a moderator and examiner being assigned to your center. So that process is done by mid-April, and you'll be able to see the request for each of the components in LWT when that happens. So there are three sections when you go into a component where you can upload material. That is the administration material. So that's things at a cohort level. So that can include things like a centre declaration, attendance registers, seating plans, things like that, depending on what is needed for the particular component. Then there is a shared file section. So that is files that can be used for one or more students. So you can then go into that and link that file to the different students that it refers to. And then there are sections for individual students, and that's where you can upload the material for individual students there as well. In that section, for individual students, once you have a shared file and it's linked to them, that also appears in that list for them as well. Question has been asked, do we get notified when our moderator has been assigned, or do we have to keep logging on to check? So there isn't an automatic sort of process where you will be told that one has been assigned. It's Similar to, well, it's the same process that's been in place to produce the sample list in previous years for GCSE. Um, so when you upload the marks in Edexcel Online and you see the sample that's selected there, um, that's where you see the sample, and that date happens from the beginning of April to mid-April. So that's it's the same timing for that. So and someone has asked about shared files. What could that be? So, for example, you may have a performance where two people have performed on it. You are assessing that performance for both of them, um, and you can use that to drop the file in there and then link that file to the different students. Is the sample list already assigned to centres correct, or are they still being updated? So the sample list should be becoming available in the next few weeks. If they are there already, they should be correct, and I don't see any reason why they would change particularly. But yeah, that's a process that is happening. Okay. In some cases, for example, GCSE music, it might be necessary to add in additional students. So, for example, the highest and lowest scoring candidates, if they're not included in the sample, you need to add those in. And you can do that by using the Manage Learners option there. You can click on that. It will then go to a page that shows this, which allows you to add learners to the moderation sample. So you can click on them and tick them and then click Save to add them to the moderation sample as well. Um, And for each candidate, you can select if they were present, absent, or no evidence, and that is in this drop-down box here. Um, you'll only be able to upload material for those that are marked present, and you'll not need to add anything for candidates marked absent or no evidence, and that will still allow the submission of the request to happen, even if they don't have any material uploaded for them if they've been absent or no evidence. But if they are marked present, you will need to add at least one file or link at least one shared document to each individual candidate there. There are a couple of other questions that come in. Can we use the PDF files for Pass and Cas, or do we need to use the Excel spreadsheet system? So you've got the option of using the PDF file or the Excel spreadsheet. So it's an either or. There's no requirement to use one or the other. If more than one candidate is highest lowest, i.e. same mark, do we need to upload just one or all of the highest lowest at the same mark? So if there are more than one, you just upload one of those of the highest and lowest. And what is the deadline date for all NEA marks to be added onto the system? So the deadline for NEA marks and the submission is the 15th of May. Okay, so actually uploading material, so you can either drag and drop files into the grey area for each candidate, or use the browse option, so you can literally just drag files onto here and drop them in, or you can browse and use your file explorer to navigate to the particular file that you want to upload. Once they are uploading, they go through a checking process. Now, this can take a little bit of time depending on the size of the file. Um, so for large files that we may use, for example, in music technology, where you need to upload the project file, um, that can take a little bit of time for the scanning to happen. Um, it's the process is checking that they're in an acceptable format and they're not password protected. Um, so once that process happens, and it can, as I said, take a little bit of time, um, and I know in some cases for really big files that process can take up to 12 hours. Um, this will result in files being accepted or rejected, but you can navigate away from that check as that continues in the background. So once the files are there, um, you can remove them if you want by clicking on the cross there next to the file name, and that will remove them from the upload. If they, just as a note, if they do get rejected, it flags them as rejected, and if you hover over the little icon next to them, it will give a reason why it is rejected as well. Uh, so just seeing there's a couple of other things, questions that have come in. Confused about where we put the marks on the system if this is happening separately to uploads as in previous years. Can you remind us where to the marks are uploaded to? Okay, so you still need to input the marks for all candidates for GCSE music. This is in Edexcel Online, and I can show you where that goes, possibly on another session, or because I can't get to it because it will have sensitive data in there that I can't show you in this session. So you can get to it via Edexcel Online, and that's where you upload the marks for the candidates. You will then go into LWT to upload the material that is being submitted. Does the browser option allow access to cloud locations, OneDrive, etc., or only local drives for upload? So that should be for any sort of browsing that you normally have on your computer. So if you have a OneDrive linked, you should be able to navigate there as well. So for shared files as well, you can drag and drop or select browse, just like the individual learner option, and the files get checked in the same way as individual candidate files as well. Again, once they're accepted, then you'll be able to link the file to the candidates. And you do that by clicking on the three dots at the end of this sort of blue heading for the shared file, and there you can select Manage Shared Files. Once you've done that, it goes into this sort of window and page where, from a drop-down list, you can select the file that you want to link to learners. And once you've selected the correct file, you can then go down the list, tick the ones that you want to link to that file, and then click Save. And that will link the shared file to those students. Okay, someone's asking, why can we not save the PAS and CAS PDF files after we have edited? You should be able to. I'm unsure of why that's being a problem for you. You should be able to select Save As and then be able to save them. If you're opening them in a browser window, that may be a little more restrictive. If you're opening them using Adobe Acrobat Reader, you should be able to edit them in there and then save as. So it may be the way that it's being accessed. Okay, that might be something that needs to be looked into. Leave that with me, and I'll have a bit more of a look into that for you. Okay, so once there is at least one file uploaded and accepted for each candidate marked present, the submit request button will become available. You will then click on that. It pops up a window that just basically explains that it will go into reader only, and just to make sure that you're ready to submit. And then you confirm that. As I said, that will then move the request to the completed list on the dashboard, and it will become read only. So no further files can be added at that point. Okay, if you have made a mistake, on here it says you can contact your moderator examiner, but you can also contact Pearson and ask them to return the request. Once that has been returned to you, it will move back to the In Progress tab with the status of returned, and you'll be able to then add and remove files. If the moderator or examiner thinks a mistake has been made in any of the material that's been uploaded, and the wrong things are there, they will return the request to the centre, and you will receive an email explaining the action needed as well. So there are certain accepted formats within the system. So for image, there's a list there, audio, video, and then various different documents as well. And then there are other files that may need to be uploaded as well. So if there are files that aren't in these accepted formats here and they are needed, so for example, in music technology, it is a requirement to upload the project file and associated audio. So for proprietary files for DAWs, they can't be uploaded with their file extension. You would need to create a zip file of those and then upload them and submit them in that way. So they would become a .zip to be able to be uploaded to the system. So for GCSE music, for performing, you will need to upload a recording of the performance, the score, the pass form, and that could be the Excel sheet or the PDF, and the additional declaration if you're using the Excel sheet. For composing, it's a recording of the composition, the score, CAS form, again, either the Excel or the PDF, and then again, the additional declaration if you're using the Excel sheet. For A-level music, for performing, again, it's the performing recording of the performance, the score for that, and the pass form, and that's available in Word or PDF. And again, for composing, it's recording the composition, the score, and the CAS form there. For AS and A-level music technology, for recording, you'd need to upload the audio of the recording task, the project file, including the associated audio files, and the logbook that includes the authentication statement in there as well. And then for technology-based composition, it's the audio, the technology-based composition task, the project file, again, including the associated audio files, and then the logbook. The naming convention for all of these files as you upload them to the system and well, save them to be uploaded to the system is detailed in the admin support guide for each qualification. So in GCSE music, A-level music, and then the AS and A-level music technology administrative support guide details the naming convention required for each of the files that would be uploaded there. And in terms of useful links, there are some very general guides for the LWT system. And there's a link to a guide that's for logging in and navigating, managing requests for examine components, managing requests for moderated components, and then there's a link through to the supported file format page as well. What we can do is now go through any questions that you do have. And also just to let you know here are my contact details. So there's a link through to the contact us page that you can email teachingmusic@pearson.com. There's the phone number that you can call. There's a link through to the Pearson Music community page and then my Twitter as well. But now I will have a quick look back through the questions that have come in since and go through that as well. So how do we submit the student declaration part of the pass forms? Do we get them signed and then take a picture? So this has been a bit of a discussion. So in terms of that, it is acceptable to have students just type onto the CAS and pass forms where they are signing, and that is fine. There was a discussion around needing a comment from the user when they are logged into the system to prove that it's actually the student, but altogether it is going to be accepted that it as a typed name in the signature. To submit a score from a Sibelius file, will you accept video, which is the score and recording? So in terms of the score, that should be like you would normally provide the printout of a score. So if a composition was done in Sibelius, you can then export that as a PDF file, for example. So that would be acceptable. For things that are being a composition that's been created on a door, for example, and the score is more of a screenshots and commentary that could be created in a Word document, for example, and uploaded as well. So there's a few different options for how you might present the score, but it's the same as any other year how you present that. It's just the files that you would need to upload into that. So Oscar is asking, does this mean the files Edexcel provided for Music Tech Component 1? So when we're talking about the sort of associated audio files for Component 1, that is the audio files that are in the in the DAW that you are using. So there should be the audio file folder somewhere in your system, depending on which DAW you're using and how it manages the audio files. So that's the folder that we're talking about there when we're talking about associated audio. Can we still upload a guide recording for the performance to be marked against if learned by ear? Yes, so that's absolutely fine as well. So yeah, you can upload a professional recording for the performance to be marked against. The requirement from Ofqual is that if a score exists, that should be submitted. So it depends if a score exists, that would need to be submitted, but it's possible to submit more than one file as well. So you could submit the score and the professional recording along with that as well. So on Facebook, I said using PDF forms, we could also do the separate declarations. So have to manage the FAF of e-signature or photocopying the pass-CAS. So okay, so what I have done. So you would have to have the pass and CAS form in there. As I said, it would be accepted to have the typed signature in there now, which may have gone back on what I had said previously about the comment sort of advice in there. So if you're using the PDF pass and CAS form, it's possible to use them and have the student type in there, and that would then create the digital file, so you wouldn't have to go through the sort of e-signature and photocopying route with that. Are the performing composing files submitted in the same area by candidate, or do they have a separate area? So you would upload all material for each candidate under them, so that would be the recording of the performing or performance or composition. You would then upload the score, be that a notated score, a professional recording if it's performance and you've used that, or a written commentary, it could be as well. And then you've got the pass and CAS form, or if you're using the Excel version, you could upload the pass and CAS form to the shared file or the admin area as well. When typing on the pass and CAS PDF files, the text boxes don't expand, and to read the information, you need to scroll through the information. This work when uploaded, and will the moderator be able to scroll through them? That is something I do not know, because I'm not sure on how the system will look at that file on the other end when it arrives to the moderator examiner. They can obviously download the files as well and access them in that way and open them in a PDF viewer. So that would then still work as an option. So that could be one way around that as well. Would a link to a YouTube video be acceptable as a guide recording? In any normal year, anyway, I would discourage using YouTube links as the guide, because videos on YouTube can be removed, they can disappear, they can get taken down. So it may not be the best way to actually present that. If it is from a YouTube video, trying to get a recording or the audio from that to submit is a much better way, than just providing the link to the video. Whereas the guidance on how to fill out the TA comments on the CAS for GCSE. So there isn't a particular guide on how to fill out the PAS and CAS forms. There is obviously exemplar material where there are completed PAS and CAS forms in there, and you can find that under the teaching content under the specification page and under past training material, and access it that way. That can then show you the detail that goes into a PAS and CAS form, rather than there being a particular guide, but also accessing the previous principal moderator reports or principal examiner reports for those components generally give guidance around the administration that centres have done in that series as well. So that can pinpoint the strengths that has come out of the administration side of things as well. Okay, and this going back to a music tech thing, we use Reason and students import the files from the Edexcel website to build the component 1 project. Do you want these bounce out as stems, pre or post processing? So the audio files, the associated audio files are usually the raw audio files that are there in the system, and that's what is usually submitted, because that's the way I think most doors will deal with them, and then they probably won't be processed in terms of that. I'm new to Edexcel GCSE and want to confirm that I only have to upload sample candidates plus highest and lowest audio scores for composing and performing. Yes, so it is only the sample that is requested that you will need to upload, and obviously plus highest and lowest if they're not in the sample. And those will be the only students listed on the LWT system as well. What is advantage of spreadsheet over PDF? There's no advantage. They are essentially the same forms. You fill in the same information. It's just a different option of how you can complete the forms for those. And then, so just so I'm clear, I can upload the score, PAS/CAS form, and audio files as 3 separate uploads per student in the individual or shared section. Yes, so if you're putting things in the shared section, that would obviously need to be linked to different students. But yeah, you can upload different files under individual students. If you've got things arranged in folders for a student, you can't upload the folder as such because it wouldn't retain the structure of that folder. It would you can drag 3 individual files and drop them in at the same time, and it would upload the 3 files separately under that learner. So my exams office can see moderation students and also can put in the marks. However, I can't access any of this. I have no learners requests in my login. Do I need to ask my school to give me access, or will it happen when you release the samples fully? So in Edexcel Online, you can have certain permissions which allows you to see candidates to enter marks and things that way, and depending on how your school operates, sometimes the exams officer retains that, sometimes they give teachers permission to the correct permissions to be able to do that themselves. But for LWT, and when the sample appears in that system, you only need the basic access to Edexcel Online to allow you to see that sample and upload the material. So once that becomes available in LWT, you should be able to see the candidates and the component in the system there as well. Those associated files are your files, not tracks that the students have recorded themselves, so you want them back. Okay, so I'm not familiar with Reason and how it deals with audio files, but you should be submitting those files and the associated audio files, because lots of doors, if you are making clips and edits of the original files, it will create audio files of those and save them in the file in the audio file section as well. So those are the associated audio files that we're talking about as well. So it's where things have been cut up and moved around, and it's the associated audio file with a particular track as well, depending on, as I said, how your DAW deals with those. On a separate topic, is there a date year for SetWorks changing new spec? In a short answer, no. The SetWorks for GCSE and A level are intended to be there for the life of the specification. We don't have any plans to change those at this point, and we don't have any indication of when reform may happen for a new specification as well. Is there a limit to the file size, especially for the audio? There is a limit. I can't remember what it is off the top of my head, but it's massive. So for audio files, you certainly wouldn't be hitting a problem with that. For massive long videos, possibly, but I don't think in any of the situations that we have for GCSE music, A-level music, or A-level music tech, we will get into the problem there. Okay, just to clarify points. If an examiner does not have Reason, he, she will not be able to mark it, so audio has to be bounced out post-processing, as also if we use third-party plugins, which some examiners may not have. A-level music tech. Yes, so you are submitting the mixed stereo file. That is always required as what you're submitting for A-level music tech for recording and for technology-based composition, but it is a requirement as well to submit the project file and the associated audio. Those files, the project file and the associated audio files, aren't assessed. They are there for an examiner to look at to clarify anything if they need to. It is the stereo mix that is assessed. Okay. Don't suppose he was asking how to fill in CAS and PASS comments for GCSE, but where on the system do we write these in? So for GCSE, there is space for comments on the PASS and CAS forms. For A level, because it is an examined, externally assessed component, NEA component, there isn't place to add comments on those. For GCSE, there is a box for each marking grid where you can add comments, and there is also an additional information section in there as well. So is there a particular way you want the files labeled? Yeah, so they're in the administrative support guide for each specification, which can be found online. There is the naming convention for each file that you need to upload as well. So you can have a look in there, and that will explain how to name the files. So please can I confirm that it's fine for candidates to type their name on the CAS pass at A level 2? Yes, so there have been discussions about this, about what is really needed in this, and for other subjects as well, they are just going with it being acceptable to type the name into the PAS and CAS forms there, or well, the declaration form, whichever subject it is. So in terms of that, yes. So that, yeah, PAS and CAS forms, obviously the name is then typed and the date is put in as well. Going back to the professional recording that we can upload if students have learned by ear. If we submit a score where the melody might have slight differences from the professional recording, will students be penalised? So in terms of that, if it has been learnt from the audio, then generally I would make a note that it's the audio that has been used in terms of making those judgments there as well. Small deviations in certain styles like pop and musical theatre are certainly allowed and acceptable. If there are deviations from that score as well, you can annotate the score to signify those, and the professional recording is there to back up that as well. So there shouldn't be any penalty for that in terms of that. Okay, it looks as though there aren't any more questions coming in. But I'll just leave the contact details up there. So just one last question. Can we have a recording of this meeting, please? Yeah, so I'll post a recording and the slides onto the Pearson Music Community page, where there is a link there, and you can also get to it just by going on the music subject page on the website. There is a link through to the community page that is just up on the sort of contact part there. Okay, so just having a look, someone's been quite helpful and posted in the chat the naming convention for a lot of the GCSE audio files there by the look of it. So yeah, I hope you found this useful. If you do have any further questions, please email me on teachingmusic@pearson.com or give me a call on that number. So as I said, recording and the slides will be available on the Pearson Music Community page in the next couple of days. I'll get those up there as well. So thank you very much for attending, and hope you have a pleasant evening.